Hello. Crew. What's going on?
Coach D, what's up, baby?
Why, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I am well.
Hey, man.
Vested time, Jamar.
Great Thursday, great Thursday. What's up, Vested community?
Hello. Back to you.
Hello.
Hey, I got a question for you, man. Right out the gate, you asked me pregame a few moments ago, what was the best thing that happened to me this week? And I didn't ask you. So let's just give it to the world right now. What about this last week, man? What's been some of the amazing things that's happened to you?
Okay.
Yeah.
The best thing that's happened to me this week is that I've been pushed to an extreme that I had to just figure out what I was made of. I ran into a time where I tell myself that when I hit that point, that it's time for you to reel it in a little bit. It's time to pump the brakes. It's time to slow down. And I'm finally to the point now where I'm so confident in what it is that I'm doing with the gas brake mechanism that in the moment where I needed to get something done, I had to choose uncomfortable. I literally had to be like, okay, body's telling me to just take it easy. And in most situations, I should. But I'm working towards something that I truly believe in, that I know for a fact is going to add value to the world and to my life. And I just pushed through. And it hurt. And my body's going, oh man, I wish you didn't do that. But there's part of me that understands that, like, now I'm in the position where I can pursue myself. I can pursue a purpose that's beyond something that was so physically uncomfortable that I got to choose to be bigger than it. So it's one of these things that, like, through this discomfort, through this grinding and pushing myself to be in a spot to achieve in a way that makes my life valuable, that makes me desire to want to do it again tomorrow. Like, I'm there, but man, is it uncomfortable, Jamar. But for me to be able to access the awareness and recognize that I actually chose physical discomfort because I'm so driven to do something else, that's the best thing that happened to me this week. I found a version of myself through struggle that I am proud of, that I can look at and say, yes, this is Damien building towards the person that he knows that he can be. And it's not an idea, I'm actually doing it. So
could you say that this week, one of the best highlights of your week was you doing the work?
I guess so, man. Yes. And you know what, guys? Right? Sometimes, Vested community, the work hurts. And sometimes you have to look at the hurt and choose it and say, oh, yeah, this one's going to suck in the morning. But, man, you got to finish. You know, you got to apply yourself towards something that adds value to each breath. I mean, I'm excited about what I was working on. So, you know, more about that to come, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, man, that's a perfect segue into what we're talking about today. I mean, what's the title of our message today?
Do the work.
Do the work. Wow. That's the community. Here's the question. Are you doing the work?
I think I am. It hurt. So I chose that.
Right. Well, you think about it, Coach D, you know, what was our inspiration for this? And you know, we would do our pre-show conversation. Hey, what is our topic going to be this week? And we want to also thank the Shaper family for last week, Family Matters, episode 25, and really talking about what Mama Shaper instilled in Paul, right? Do the work. And that's what we were talking about this week is, hey, that'll be an awesome message to talk about because we're in the environment right now. We're still in the COVID reflection. This is not the time for us to be napping. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with a great power nap, but you know what I mean? Like our pattern shouldn't be napping. Our pattern we should be doing the work right now. This is the time to be doing the work, whatever that work is for you, whatever you're feeling called to do. That's what today's about. It's about doing the work. And when we were talking about this message, Coach D, there's one man that I thought about that he embodies work. He embodies, that's what he does. You know, when you meet Ron is not a lazy guy. he's a guy that gets the job done. So when we're talking about this, that's who I thought about, and I'm excited to introduce you to my brother Ron here shortly. But man, what does do the work mean for you? Like, what does that mean for you?
It's one of those statements that I feel like you can't hide from, because you can make yourself look busy. You can adhere to a job title and check all the boxes. But really, when it comes to doing the work, and small correction, and I take full responsibility to this vested community, but I see a chiropractor a couple times a week named Dr. Schaefer, and it was actually the Shepper family that was on last week. So I threw these two different names into Jamar's head right before we started this, so I wanted to straighten
out. But Shepper.
Look, I think what Mama Shepper was talking about,
Mama Shepper,
was the deep calling within each person that truly knows what the work is. Because from different perspectives, that means something different. I mean, Jamar, I'm sure if I look at you and said, do the work, I mean, it could be taken literally, like, okay, I got to do work, or do the work might mean internally or even spiritually. You hear that a lot in certain faiths and religions, and, that doing the work means doing what it takes to figure out what's going on the inside. And then when you do, figuring out how to share it. So I'm very interested to see where this interview goes today, because I don't know anything about your friend other than what we've kind of discussed and a little bit of research that I've done. So I'm sure he's very inspirational, and what he's created is truly empowering. So give me just a little bit more background, Jamar, on your relationship and, where you see this going, because he's done the work and he's inspired you, that when we were discussing this topic, you're like, oh, boom, Ron, let's do it. So tell me a little bit more.
Man, brother Ron, we met this year. So in April, to be 3 years ago. And just like you, brother, is a fellow Toastmaster, right? That's where you and I connected. That's also where me and brother Ron connected 3 years ago, April 2018, when Ron came to our club as a visitor, as a guest, and he was leaving after the first meeting, and he and I connected. And I let him know genuinely, and I really felt that we needed Ron to be there, and Ron came back, and we just built a genuine friendship. Found out that we're both men of faith. He's an amazing husband. He's been married over 35 years to the beautiful, amazing Kelly. They have children. He's a G-pa. He's a grandpa. They have grandchildren. He's founder of the company Nuvia Water. He's had ups and downs in business, but he's been resilient and fought back. And just like all of us, he's had setbacks and challenges. But man, Ron has a great attitude, and he's always been very open with our conversation and our relationship. And I have an utmost respect for him as a man, as a person. And I see him doing the work. And when you talk to Ron, that's doing the work is not something that he thinks about. He just does the work. And so when we were talking about it this week, he's the first person that came to my mind that I can say, hey, if he's on the show, like, I already know he's really doing the work, right? Because I see it. I know this brother. And so that's where it came from. And I'm just grateful to have him in my life. And I look up to him in many ways. I aspire one day to have a marriage like him and Kelly have, and just to see the love that they have for each other when they're with each other. And they're a power couple, man, and see what he does to pour into his company and to help people there grow. And he genuinely cares about other people. So that, for me, man, that's why brother Ron is here, man. And
all right, man, is he ready? I'm gonna try to get after him. I'm gonna fire him some questions. You don't come on to Vested and just think that you're not gonna be vulnerable with this, Jamar. So you best be ready for me to get after him.
Hey, Ron, you ready, bro?
Should we inspire?
Let's drop some. Let's drop the banner, man. So Ron can. Ron, where you at, man?
Let's bring him on.
Oh, man, there you are, guys. Hey, I love it, man. I love the intro. Thank you so much, man, for those kind words, Jamar. I definitely receive it. Coach D, man, I've heard a lot about you. It is a pleasure to finally meet you, sir. So I am glad to be on this show and look forward to bringing some inspiration to individuals that are out there that are looking to get to the next level, man. And working hard is what I've done all my life.
Ron, love you, man. But Ron, you know, Coach, the brother, Coach D. This is brother Ron. And, you know, hey, we're all fellow Toastmasters. What's up, Toastmasters? Give a shout out to Toastmasters sponsor organization.
Yep,
we're sponsored by Toastmasters one day, right? Come on.
Non-profit, so I guess we're already sponsored, right?
Yeah. Hey, but Ron, I'm gonna give you a heads up, man. You know, Coach D's probably gonna throw some fastballs at you.
Well, I can see that. I'm ready for him.
All right. Well, where do we start here, Ron? What is? Let's lay a foundation. I mean, your brothers, sisters, mom, dad. I mean, you just from the Amazon jungle right into water. I mean, talk to me. Let's do this.
Okay. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about me. I'm 55 years old, man. I entered this earth in 1965. I come from a small family, mom, dad, brother. And I would say it's a middle to lower income family. Never really wanted much in life. My parents brought plenty of love to our family. Just wasn't a lot of money. And as I came out of that environment, one of the things that I realized is that I didn't want to go through life struggling. I watched the struggles of my mom and dad. And my wife comes from a similar situation where her mom has struggled, worked very hard all of her life. And there's been a lot of inspiration for me, growing up in that environment. Again, not lacking for any one thing. I mean, there was lots of love. That's one thing that my mom and dad always poured on us. And there was always time. But we lacked in being able to do certain things due to the lack of money. However, I've been a worker all my life, Coach D. And, I started at the age of, 12 with a paper route. Earning $300 per month that I quickly saved for my first car by the time I was 16. So that's when I first bought my first car for $5,000 cash. And I guess that's really where it began for me. But my family's small. My brother is 6 years younger than me, in the same business, works hard. I have mentored him for many years and helping him along. And, that's one of my life's passions. I feel that I have a lot to give people, and I genuinely care about individuals. And in my life, if you were to look at me, you would know that I have always worked hard. And I feel personally that I've had to work harder than others in life, and I'm not afraid to do that. It's just part of who I am. God has given me a talent, and I feel it's to work, it's to deliver, it's to create. I've always been one that wants to develop something in business and edify those that are around me. But God has given me just enough talent that he keeps me from being lazy. That's one of the things I've noticed. So I've never really wanted, and I've never stopped working, but he's given me just enough so that I keep pressing on, I keep building, and I keep believing in myself. And I think that's really what separated me from my competitors, separated me from the pack, is my willingness to work. And when I work, Damien, I give 100%, man.
Nice.
Man. Well, look at this here, Ron. We got a question coming in from our amazing tech team. What does do the work mean to you? Because we're talking about work, right? And like what Coach D was talking about, work can mean something different to different people. For you, what is doing the work, being a worker? What does that mean?
Man, completing the task, Jamar. It's if I get started on something, I'm going to see it through. A lot of times it may take me a little bit longer. I get pulled in a lot of directions, but I'm very goal oriented. So if you were in my home office right now, or even my office at Nuvia, you would find that I create goals. And I set a workflow for myself. So if I have a project that needs to get completed, I'm going to do it. So getting the work done it's never been about not doing it. It's always been about completing the task at hand. So whether it's developing a marketing strategy, a marketing campaign, a new product, I see it. I see it through from start to finish. So at Nuvia Technologies, let's talk a little bit about that and some of the projects that I have engaged in since this company was formed and organized back in 2011. You have
I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yes,
the
sir.
thing that you created is the incredible thing that we'd like to talk about. But first, if you don't mind, I like to poke Ron, little Ron, real quick, because you had this engine that you started talking about at a young age that you learned when you had a paper out. So before we get into like this mountain of things that you've created, and obviously you said you just check the boxes, you make a list and you make it happen. But I want to get into real quick what inspired Ron to create. Like you found that you have this engine. Now, what inspired you to create yourself into this situation where you could now go into these different projects? So who are you? And at what point did you decide to take hold of Ron and decide to apply this engine to XYZ?
Yeah, where does that inspiration come from, Ron?
Yeah, great question. I think it comes from the Lord. It's not anything that I have created. It's been a desire that God has given me. And in some respects, it's been unhealthy throughout my time in life. And, if I go back to when I was 13, the desire to have a car at the age of 16, I had to get there. So my family wasn't in a position to say, hey, Ron, we're so proud of you. You did a great job in school. You graduated with this grade point average. We're going to give you a car. That's not the way it was. I had to earn that money to get the car. And then shortly thereafter, out of high school, is when I met the love of my life, which is Kelly, which Jamar mentioned a little bit on. And that really fueled the passion for success. Because I knew, Damien, at that point in time, that if I was going to be the sole provider and the provider for my family, that I had to create opportunities. And that didn't come from myself. It wasn't taught to me. It was a God-given, inspired attribute that he gave to me and set the ability for me to step out of my comfort zone and build organizations. And I have been self-employed from the age of 23 years of age. So I haven't worked for anybody since I was 23 years old, Damien. So that had to come from the Lord. There's not anything, again, that I've done. It's just been this desire. Has it created problems for me in the past? Absolutely. But it's also created a lot of opportunities for myself and those individuals that work with me and that have worked in connection with organizations I've had. We brought a lot of success, a lot of opportunities to a lot of people. So, to answer that question is really difficult because I have to look back at, where I came from. And maybe a lot of that is not seeing my parents have everything that they wanted to have in life for the lack of funds. So that's always been one of my driving forces, but I've always had my mom and dad in my corner, really giving me 100%. They've always had my support and they've always wanted me to achieve a higher level of success than what they did. So I think that was instilled in me at a very young age. And that's part of what I would attribute that success to.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay. This is good stuff because all of this is the soup of what's going to go into your creation. So as everybody's going through this COVID reflection, as Jamar calls it, we're all running up against ourselves and we all have these talents. So you have this engine and you mentioned earlier that engine, you had to learn how to kind of work it because as you grew up and understood that you had this God-given ability, it's not like it was just easily applied. It's like you had to learn how to drive the car. And I think as people are starting to, whether they want to or not, lean into who they are, they're kind of scrambling a little bit to see what it is that they have that they can add to the world. And as you started to learn that you have this crazy engine and you're running into these problems, maybe banging it up a little bit, trying to figure out how to use it, what would your advice be about how people can be inspired by banging everything up while they're trying to figure out their God-given ability? Because it's very uncomfortable. how did you push through when the work beat you down?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, in my life, I've had many barriers or walls, and you have to push through those. You have to, go over or go around. I believe in life that we get what we deserve, what we feel we deserve, right? So I've always pressed through it. I've always seen obstacles or challenges as learning opportunities. So, I would encourage those that are out there that are building organizations or want to get to the next level in their life to, one, you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. And that's one of the conversations that Jamar have had plenty of times. And he said, Ron, you have to be willing to go forward. And part of that process is getting into that mechanical phase, because it all starts as awkward regardless of what we do. So if you're whatever that proverbial wall is, you have to bust through it. So when you get to the other side, you get into an area where you're not comfortable, right? Which is the uncomfortable zone for me, or the awkward zone. And then you eventually, as Jamar tells us, you get into a state of mechanical, and then from mechanical you roll into flow. So for me, it's always been just to push forward. Don't give up, don't stop. I've never hit an or a challenge that I've retreated from. So for me, it's always been, it's an opportunity to grow myself. Mm-hmm. So I don't stop at that point in time. I think that's where a lot of individuals may fail in life. They hit a challenge, it beats them down. It could be a relationship issue. It could be a financial crisis, which I've been through plenty of those in my life, as most of us have. But I have learned really to stay steadfast, be strong, and be willing to do the work to get to the other side. And it's very rewarding out there, guys, when you finally get to that point. Mm-hmm. And, part of that, too, is just having a good team. It's not just been about me. I have an amazing support system here. I have an incredible wife that supports me, whether I am successful or I have just failed. She's always there to lift me up, Damien. Right. And I think having that family support, having good camaraderie, with your colleagues and workers. I've always tended to surround myself with individuals that I would say are smarter than me, right? And that has always edified me. I learn from them. You go back 20, 30 years, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have Google. We couldn't ask Siri, a quick question. And I was around people, man, that would help me out, that are college educated. Guys, you're dealing with individuals here that dropped out of college. I graduated high school with a 3.3 grade point average, went into college, didn't finish it, dropped out to go into my career full time. And I have been full time, again, since the age of 23, and I've always pressed forward. So I think that's, part of the answer there, Damien. I hope that helps. But, I think there's a wall for a lot of people, and whatever that is, and maybe that stops individuals from hitting that level of success. But I'm going to say, man, there's rewards on the other side. You have to push that wall.
Hey, Coach D, I got a question for you, man, because as Ron's talking about the wall, right? And Ron, and thank you, brother, for that perspective, because we're all met with some form of resistance and adversity, right? But for you, Coach D, like how do you power through that wall when those walls? Because before we started the show, right, you were obviously talking about a wall that appeared this week and how you decided to do the work. So what pushes, what inspires you to get through the wall when that time comes?
I think, let's see if I can be broad, because it's a simple answer and I want to just shake it up a little bit, because I could say one thing and you guys would both agree with me, but I believe that there is value in being all in when it comes to having faith. And faith can have many different meanings. And I think that if you have faith in yourself, if you have faith in others, and you have faith in the alignment process of everything coming together, you'll understand that there's no such thing as perfection, that nobody goes 1,000 for 1,000. And that there are times where we're winning and that's how we're expanding. And then there are times where things aren't optimal and we're growing. So if we can apply a mental mindset that is always growth oriented, then even when we're dealing with the struggle, as long as we're aware of the idea that the struggle is what it is in the now, then we power through it. And then Once that now is over, another now will follow. And for me, like what we were talking about before the show, I didn't even remember what it was until you brought it up, because it's like we're doing the show now. And if you carry the energy, whether it be good or bad, into the next thing that you're doing, it has a very good chance of affecting it in a way that you might not want it to. Because in this now, in this moment, I can answer your question with all of my heart and all of my mind, because I'm here right now. I'm not worried about what I'm doing later. I'm not worried about being in pain. I'm not worried about, the frustration of something happened earlier or might happen later. Doing the work, I think, is applying yourself in a way that is in alignment with all of those other energies that I brought up. But man, I have faith in God, and that's really what drives me. So it starts there.
Wow, man, that's powerful. And you think about us being in the moment. We talk about that too, right? Because it doesn't matter what the work is that we're doing, however you describe doing the work, the only way that we are going to accomplish what we're seeking out or striving to accomplish is being in the moment and doing the work in that moment. Because we can't see what the work looks like tomorrow at 4 p.m. Right? We can only see what the work looks like at this moment in time. Yes, we can strive. Yes, we can target. Yes, we can calculate. Yes, we can envision. But we don't know that moment until we get to that moment. We can't really live that moment until we're in that moment. So, Coach T, that was a very powerful perspective that you're talking about doing the work, because it's about doing the work in each individual moment.
Hey, Jamar, it's not always a struggle either. I think that this would be a good time to move into the create section because, well, let's see. Should we do it?
Yeah. Wait, where's it coming?
Well, the reason I said it is because once you struggle, once you make the decision, once you fight through it, and you start to stack chips, you start to, one brick, one brick, one brick, one brick, one brick, things start to resemble what it is that you're working towards. And then when that happens and you get used to this idea of once you check the boxes, once you make a plan, once you have the faith that even though it's a struggle now, and maybe the next now, that you have faith and that you're steadfast, and that you realize that if you apply this energy similar to how you did in the past and experience success, that it's going to happen again. So now I'd like you to talk about this company here that you've created, my friend. Could you share with us a little bit about your creation?
Yeah, absolutely. Nuvia Water Technologies, we founded the company in 2011. In 2012, probably about April, is when we launched our first sales. And we had to develop a product line that would be intriguing for the consumer, that would separate us from the pack. So we started off with a couple of point of entry systems, which are your whole house water filtration systems, as well as a drinking water system. So as I go back to those early days, it was myself and a couple of other individuals doing the work. So here we created the company. We had, in my opinion, we had, some of the best literature on the market. We had state-of-the-art technology. We had a marketing program in place, and now we had to get out there and make some money. So at that point in time is when we started developing marketing programs. We brought in some appointment setters to set those appointments. We started training our sales staff, and I was right out there in the middle of it with them, Damien, taking incoming calls, setting those appointments, and running the sales calls to get those initial sales to drive the revenue in. There was many times that it was just me out there running appointments, being responsible for paying our appointment team, the manager that we had on staff. We had to pay for the marketing, the accounting, just all the different processes, the building, the overhead. So there's a lot of stress that comes from starting an organization, but with hard work and determination and not quitting, at the end of year one, we produced about $1 million in gross revenues. Awesome. And it continued to grow from there. So yes.
I was just going to say, as you're literally doing the work, will you share with the Vested community the feeling of once it transitioned from being a grind to starting to get into rhythm with your vision? What did that feel like? Because you have this, and you're working so hard, and you're working so hard, and you're working so hard, but then finally when you hit that rhythm and that groove, talk to me about that transition, because a lot of us right now, we're trying to figure ourselves out, and we're trying to do things that are not necessarily working. And then all of a sudden okay, yeah, this is it. We want to focus on this, and we start grinding. It doesn't feel good because it's not going so well until we figure it out. I want you to tell me about the feeling that you had when you were grinding, and then the transition of what it felt like when you're like, okay, I'm the leader to this company, and this is what I've been working so hard for. Now, baby, let's go. Talk to me about that feeling.
Okay, the grind is just that. It's daily work. Yeah, and I think that's, behind any successful organization, the founders start at the bottom and work themselves up. And when you finally get to the point that you have enough revenue coming in that you can bring in the support staff, the managers, the sales teams, hey, it's a relief. I have to tell you, it's a relief. There is many times, when you go back to the grind side, that we do everything. We have to handle the financing, the accounting, the, running the credit. There's just a lot of work. And whatever the business is, the fundamentals are the same. We have to do everything from making the sell to fulfilling, the customer with the product or service that we sell. So getting to that point, Damien, is amazing. It takes time to get there. It's taken us, almost 10 years to get to that point. Now, if you look at Nuvia, it's a different organization than we even had 2 years ago. I have a phenomenal management team. We have great leaders. And now for the first time in the history of the company, I can actually step back and trust my management team to make the right decisions and keep the company moving forward. So it takes time to get there. That didn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work. You have to do the hard work to get to that point. But when you finally arrive, it's a breath of fresh air. You can sit back, you can relax. And not that you can ever stop managing or overseeing the business. I'm definitely still hands-on, although I have like I said earlier, I have an amazing team. So I meet with the key leaders of our organization on a daily, weekly basis. So we're making sure that we're making the right decisions so the company continue to run forward. Nuvia is, in my opinion, has always been bigger than myself. It is, starting off, it was all about what I could accomplish, but now it's bigger than any one person. It has taken on a life, and it requires a professional team to manage. And that's a good feeling to get to that place where the organization runs like your watch, right? It's a fine-tuned machine when you finally get there. And I think Nuvia is right on the cusp of being at that place. And again, I contribute that success to the key employees that we have at Nuvia. But it's great. It's a great feeling, Damien, to finally break through and get to that place.
So Brother Ron, with Nuvia, right? I mean, the goal, you're in the water game, right? And you want to bring high quality water to families all across the nation, right? So here for you, before Nuvia came, because you and I had talked about there were other projects that you wanted to create, but then also setbacks occurred before you got to Nuvia. So can you just touch real quick on how those setbacks actually set you up to embark on the Nuvia journey? And then for someone who doesn't know anything about Nuvia, what would be a takeaway? What does Nuvia do?
Well, Nuvia is a water filtration company. We provide water filtration equipment to residential and the commercial marketplace. So we have point of entry systems, which are your whole house systems. So you would refer to those as a water softener. We have water softeners, and we have water refining systems, which remove chlorine, chloramine, and hard water from your home. So, for the VESTED community in your home, for the most part, we have hard water. You see water spots. So a Nuvia water filtration system will actually treat the water. So it takes the incoming municipal water, we run it through a Nuvia whole house system. That then on the Nuvia Pro that you see on your screen there, that will remove chlorine and chloramines, heavy metals and chlorinated gases. And then it also runs the water through a second tank, which is resin, which is going to remove the dissolved solids or the hard water that you're familiar with. So that provides clean, filtered water for you and your family to bathe in. It protects your home investment. So you have clean water running through the plumbing system. And then we have drinking water systems. We have reverse osmosis that goes under the sink. We have alkaline systems that remineralize the water. We put key minerals and electrolytes back into the water for hydration. So those are the products that Nuvia produces. But to get to the setbacks, are you referring prior to Nuvia, Jamar?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So yeah, they're in my life, my family and I, we've gone through a lot. I've had some amazing success early on in life in my 30s. And back in about 2003, went through a complete financial reset. So we went from a place of really, for all intents and purposes, I would like to say that we were close to retirement at that point in time. And then we had a reset in our life. So my wife and I had to start over. And at that point in time, there was a lot of challenges we had to go through. Is, how am I going to support the family? What are we going to do? I started researching different businesses, really looking how can I make a difference, right? And support my family at the same time. So those struggles were tough. Those were very difficult. And I think behind, most successful entrepreneurs out there, we're all going to go through some times. We're going to have some investments that are amazing, where we make lots of money. And then we're going to hit some roadblocks to where we lose a significant amount of money, or in some cases, we lose everything that we've made and worked for. And that can deflate you. And at that point in time, I was at a crossroads. I was conflicted. I was angry at a lot of stuff going on, a lot of emotions that I was challenged with, and I had to rise above that, Jamar. And when I did, it was, okay, let's game on. So then that's really where I poured into the business community. I reviewed probably 50 different businesses and their strategies, and started going to a sales career at that point in time. So most of my life, going back to when I was 23, I was a process engineer technician, and had a small team of about 10, 12 people that worked underneath me.
Hi, Mom. I love you, Mom. That's my mom, right?
And then went into professional sales, had a software development company where we developed some amazing technology. And that was part of the adjustment that I had to go through back in 2003, where we had an amazing company, about 60 employees, and really was feeling that I had arrived. And then the world imploded, right? Everything turned. I had no favor from God. My world was literally upside down.
Hey, bro, you always got favor from God, brother.
Yes, it didn't feel like it, Jamar, at that time. So that's really where I started on my journey. And I was introduced by a very good friend of mine and mentor of mine to the water filtration industry in 2003. That's really where I had a little taste of the business. It didn't go far at that point in time. It didn't really work out. And then I transitioned into a couple of other companies, learning sales and products, started a couple of one or two different companies, had marginal success. And then it was about 2008, 9, right about that time frame, I went full-time into water filtration, building a small team, working for another company. And then about 2010, I decided, hey, this is not working for me any longer. So it was time to go ahead and get back into self-employment, building a business, creating opportunities for employees as well as for myself. And that's where I started Nuvia Water Technologies. So it took me about a year and a half to get to that point, laying the foundation for the company, writing the literature, developing the products, deciding what it was I was going to take to market. So, going back to that time, Jamar, just to answer your question, yeah, there were some challenges, but I think it was those challenges, those adversities in life that set me up for the success that Nuvia is having today. So as I look back on that situation, I reflect on it. At this point in time, I can say I'm thankful for it, because I feel that I'm a better person having gone through it. Would I ever want to go back to that again? Absolutely not. It was the most difficult time in my family's life. But where we're at today, I thank the Lord. He has literally restored a lot of what we've lost. And he has created an amazing organization for all of our employees. And part of the plan for this company is really to go well beyond, my time here. It is set up to be a foundation and a career for everybody that works at Nuvia Water. So yeah, I think those challenges have really brought me to where we're at now.
Man.
Woo. Hey, Jamar, I see you, baby. You got him, bro. That was empowering right there. Hey, Ron, he got you right there. He was fishing for the empowering stuff, and you just gave it to him, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But you look at it, Coach D, right? Invested community, and you listen to what Brother Ron just shared. And if you're watching this, if you're banged up, right? If you've gone through some challenges, you going through the COVID reflection, you might have to be doing a financial reset. You might have lost everything. You might be looking for work, furloughed. You might be out of a career. Your industry might be gone right now. Mm-hmm. So just when encourage anyone out there who's going through what Ron just described, keep going and keep going. That the opportunity is going to come. And like Ron said, it didn't feel like God's favor is there. I believe God's favor is always there, but we may not feel it all the time, because what's real is the natural. What's real is the challenge and the adversity that we're feeling, because we're human. So anyone who's out there powering through a challenge, we want to encourage you from the Vested community, keep going, keep doing the work, keep working on yourself, keep that perspective that the opportunity is coming, the door is going to open, and just do your best to keep your head up and your chest up. But Coach D, what do you want to add as we're going to
real quick? I got a Mama Baker popped in, and she had a really good question. She wanted to know what gave you the inspiration to name the company Nuvia?
Oh, that's a great question, Joyce. Prior to starting the company, the individuals that working for me, we sat down and we had a mastermind coming up with different names. And I would like to say that, we came up with a name. We came up with the name Nuvia at the time, but it evolved. And where the name came from was from one of our installers. It was on an off conversation. And when I tell you, we were struggling with different names, but we came up with some great names. And we really worked on it for about a week and a half. And then I stepped back from it, Joyce. And then I came back into it a couple weeks later. And we had some cool names. I thought I was settled on one. And then I was out at a install. And one of our installers, his name is Hugo. And I was chatting with him, and he goes, "Hey, Ron, what have you been up to?" And I said, "Well, hey, we're getting ready to start this company. Hugo, I'll put it out there. We are working on creating a name for our water filtration company. Do you have any suggestions?" And he said, "Well, that's a good question, Ron. No, I really don't, but let me give some thought to that." So about a week later, he came back to me with the name Nubia, Nubia. And it has to do with rain cloud. And I thought, well, that's cool. So the first thing I did is I jumped online, did a Google search, Joyce, to make sure that the name wasn't being used somewhere. And it was available, under Nuvia Water. And that didn't feel right. So I thought about it. And just overnight, I literally woke up in the morning and I said, wow, Nubia, that's cool. If I change the B to a V, does that work? And I wrote it out, jumped online, did some searches, found out there was no other water filtration companies associated with the name Nuvia. So I secured the name nuviawater.com, nuviawater.net. And that's where the name originated from. So it was from a close friend and installer, Hugo,
Wow.
who actually gave me the inspiration to create that name.
That's a great question, Mom. Thank you, Hugo. Hey, and just for the Vested community out there, I am a Nuvia client. I got my Nuvia water filtration. Every single day, I got my Nuvia water flowing. So thank you, brother. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, and we're going into some empower talk real quick.
Let's do it.
Hey, Ron. Well, man, you talked about you've already given some empowering perspective. Just you talking about your own personal journey. But brother, right now, you know that the world out there is challenging for a lot of people, right? There's a lot of people who are still panicking and others are still in the pivot process. What would you say to someone to empower them in this current climate who's going through the process right now, who maybe hasn't hit the jet stream yet, who's still trying to do the work, who's looking for work, who wants to do the work? And what would you say to that person who's going through a season that you've gone through?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say knock the wall down, go after your dreams and be willing to do the work that others are not willing to do. In my life, that is kind of a motto. It's what I live by. I've always been willing to work hard and do the work that others are not willing to do. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're perplexed, you're challenged, you don't know what to do, starts with a dream. What's your dream? What do you want to do? What do you want to become? What position do you want to hold in life? And go after it. And once you decide that, and you take the step and you start moving forward, establish goals. Our organization, we are big on goal setting. We used to do, annual goals, and now we break them down on quarterly goals and we review them on a monthly basis. So if you're going to set the goal, set a goal that is beyond what you can attain. I like to say, set your God-sized goals. And then make sure that you have someone that you tell your goals to that can hold you accountable. And one of the most empowering things I've done in achieving my goals is I read and visualize those goals each and every day. As a matter of fact, if you can see my wall, I have my goal sheet set up right here to the left of me. So it's our first quarter goals, and those are written down. So I have, the deadline that I want to achieve them by, and then I have the date that I actually complete them so that I can track those. That's what I would encourage. Go forward, knock the wall down, don't stop, and be willing to do the work. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back. You have to be willing to do the work. And enjoy the journey along the way, right? A lot of people, we're willing to do the work. We get out there, we're busy, but do we really take the time to enjoy life? One of the things that I'm doing this season of my life is I'm really focusing on enjoying my life's journey, right? And I'm bringing the favor of God in everything that I do, right? As Jamara says, the favor of God all day, every day. And I have really embodied that. I mean, I look at what I can do each and every day. What can I bring to my family? How can I empower individuals that are in my network? And part of that is, I believe it's built into who I am. It's part of my DNA. I am a complimenter, right? I'm an encourager. Anybody that I come in contact with, I always try to lift them up and elevate them and do what I can to empower them to become the next best version of themselves. Ed Milet, I follow him online all the time. And one thing he always says, man, let's be better tomorrow than we are today. Let's work to become the next best version of ourselves. And that's what I focus on. So yeah, that's it, guys. I would say knock that wall down. If you have a dream, go after it.
Wow.
Well, hey, Ron, when we swing for the fences here, man, like we try to be vulnerable and we try to really put ourselves out there so that people can understand that it's not just all, cherries and daffodils, that you really gotta push through the mud. But, we look for home runs, but every once in a while, we like to leave the best of the community with a few base hits. So I'm just going to ask you the obvious question. Why water and not laying bricks or, building houses or, selling Bibles? Why water? Talk to me about water.
Yeah, that's great. I've been asked that question from time to time. And believe me, if I was to go back 15 years from now, it would not be water. That couldn't have been further from what I've done. However, water is, we're helping families. We're cleaning up the water that they consume. So how did I get to that place? Again, I have to look at how did I end up in water filtration cells? And that was from a close friend of mine and mentor that introduced me to the business. And it was a seed that was planted in 2003, but it didn't take root until 2008, 2009. Yes, I was selling around 2007 a little bit, but it really didn't take root until 2008, about that time frame. And what better business than bringing life support water to families to make sure that they have the best possible water that they consume. It's, no more bottled water dealing with the contaminants that are associated with plastics. You don't have to ration your water for rinsing fruits and vegetables or culinary needs. It's just a great business. It's one that has become an essential business during this COVID season. When COVID hit, when I reflect back on that, it's like, wow, that was a blow. We were wondering, how are we going to get through this season? And because of water, Damien, it allowed us to get through it, and not only get through it, but become a better company as a result of it. And we've just pressed through. But I don't really have an answer for you why water, because if I was to go back years ago, I don't think water would be something I would have selected. I think it's part of the master plan. I think it's what the Lord did. I think God used a friend of mine to introduce me to the business. He brought it back to my remembrance years later. I developed a team, and here we are today. So I guess if I had to give the credit to anybody, I'll give it to the Lord, because that's where we're at today. And I thank him for it. I often look at where would I be without Nuvia, right? Because we have an amazing team. I'm elevated each and every day that I talk to our team members. So I'm thankful to be here. So why water?
Man.
We're going to give that back to the Lord, because really that's it. It's not something that I chose, Damien, but I'm sure glad he chose it for me, and I'm glad to be here.
Oh, bro, look at this, man. Right on that note, check this out. I don't know if you guys can see it, Vested community. God has good plans for me,
Nice.
and that is Jeremiah 29:11. Now, whether you know scripture or not, whether you have a relationship with God or not, God has a plan for you. And a lot of times us as people, we think we know what we want, what it looks like, but it comes in a totally different package from a totally different direction. And that's how creative God is. So just know that whoever you are out there, God has a plan for me, for Ron, for Coach D, tech team, for all of our Vested community. Ron, come on. What's up, Esther? Ron's impacting lives. All right, so I just want to let you know, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're going through.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, my friend, I have a quick, just off the top of my head, knowledge question for the Vested community. And I don't know if this is, you say water systems, but there's a lot of hype around nitrogen water and alkaline water. Could you just graze upon that real quick for the Vested community real quick, and for me?
Yeah, on alkaline water, I'm not too knowledgeable on the nitrogen type water, but when it comes to alkaline water, there's a lot of buzz around alkaline. If you have to look at reverse osmosis water to begin with. So reverse osmosis water essentially is purified water that doesn't have a lot of value to it other than the fact that it is extremely clean, right? So a lot of families are looking for essential minerals to be added back to the water: calcium, magnesium, potassium, low levels of sodium, and some other key minerals that go back into that are electrolytes that will enhance your body. But it's a better grade of water for you. The water tastes great. It is going to impact your body in ways that general purified water will not. So it's going to allow your tissues to absorb the water quicker at the cellular level, and it's going to provide better enhanced taste. And that's all I could really help you out on that, Damien. I'm just not too familiar with the nitrogen water.
Well, listen, Ron, I'd like to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sharing your time with us tonight. I'd like to throw a shout out to the tech team and my friend Jamar. Look, man, you know how it goes, dude. You got to tell them a few things, and then you got to ask them a question. So thank you again, Ron. And
man, Coach G, I love you, and tech team, how much I love you. Ron, thank you, brother, for being here. Thank you for stepping out. And I want to share this, be very transparent. Ron is not the guy that's going to step up there and want to talk to millions of people. You know, you rather do the work behind the scenes. And brother, I commend you for stepping up and shining your light and making this about helping other people, saying something that can inspire, right, someone else, to help someone create and empower them to do amazing things in this season of their lives. So just remember, Vested community, when we're called to step up and speak, it may feel uncomfortable, but just know it's never about us. It's about the gift that we can share for someone else that could impact that person's life forever. And if you're going through a season right now of adversity and challenge, just know that it's not catching God by surprise. We may not always understand why things are happening, but all things are happening for our good. And I want to encourage you to keep your head up, keep your chest up, keep doing the work, keep working on yourself. This is a season right now, Vested community, where we must do massive work on ourselves. And now, whatever it is that you're doing, I got a question for you. Are you vested?